Welcome back, everybody, to the deep dive. We're going to be tackling something pretty fascinating today.
Yeah.
Change. Um, how to make it happen, and more importantly, how to make it last.
Yeah. Change is tough.
It is tough.
And there's so much out there, you know, about
Yeah.
tips and tricks for making change happen.
Right.
But a lot of it doesn't really stick.
Yeah, and that's really what we're interested in.
Exactly.
We've got some really intriguing research lined up for you guys today, some real-world stories.
Absolutely.
And I gotta say, some of this stuff is seriously eye-opening.
It is.
It turns out there's a pretty clear pattern to how successful change unfolds.
Uh-huh.
And once you see this pattern, you start to spot it everywhere.
Yeah, it's all over the place.
It really is.
What's really cool is that the same pattern that works for like changing your own personal habits,
Yeah.
it also applies to like leading a team at work
Right.
or even tackling like big social issues.
It's really kind of amazing how consistent it is.
It is surprisingly consistent.
Yeah, so let's break down this pattern.
Okay.
What is it, and how can our listener use it to make the changes they want to see in their life?
So a lot of what we'll be talking about today comes from the book Switch
Oh.
by Chip and Dan Heath.
Okay.
And they introduce this really compelling framework for understanding change.
No. Okay.
And it involves three key players: the writer, the elephant, and the path.
The rider, the elephant, and the path. I like it.
Yeah.
Lay it on me.
Okay, so think of it this way.
Okay.
The writer represents the rational, analytical part of our minds.
Okay.
It loves planning, setting goals, thinking things through.
So the writer is the one making all those New Year's resolutions.
Exactly. And then there's the elephant.
Okay.
The elephant is our emotional side,
Right.
driven by feelings, instincts, that desire for instant gratification.
So the elephant is the one hitting the snooze button on those early morning workouts.
You got it.
I knew it!
And then we have the path,
Okay.
which represents the environment and context around us.
Got-
And the path can either make change easier or a whole lot harder.
So it sounds like for change to stick, we need to get all three of these working together.
Absolutely.
The rider, the elephant, and the path.
That's the key.
Okay.
The rider needs a clear direction.
Okay.
The elephant needs motivation.
Uh-huh.
And the path needs to be shaped to support the desired behavior.
Okay, I'm with you.
All right,
So let's dive into some real-world examples here.
let's do it.
What kind of things can our listener do to shape their path for success?
So one of the most surprising things that Switch highlights is just the sheer power of shaping the environment.
Okay, interesting.
So for instance, there's this study about popcorn.
Popcorn. All right.
I know it sounds random,
Yeah, a little bit.
but stick with me.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Researchers wanted to see if they could influence how much popcorn people ate
Okay.
without them even realizing it.
Okay.
So they gave moviegoers different size buckets,
Okay.
some medium, some absolutely massive.
I'm sensing a setup here.
You know where this is going?
I think so.
The people with the giant buckets ate way more popcorn,
Yeah.
but they didn't feel like they were overdoing it,
Right.
right? The size of the bucket, this seemingly insignificant environmental cue,
Yeah.
actually shaped their behavior.
That's kind of wild.
It is.
So just by changing the environment, you can influence people's habits without them even putting up a fight.
It's really powerful.
Yeah, do you have any other examples like that?
Yeah, so this principle applies in all sorts of areas.
Okay.
Think about something like office design.
Okay.
Switch mentions this manager who completely transformed her communication with her team just by rearranging the furniture in her office.
Really? I'm picturing some serious feng shui magic here.
It's not quite feng shui,
Okay.
but it's about being mindful of the signals your environment is sending.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So her desk used to face her team
Okay.
with her computer monitor right in her line of sight. So whenever people came to talk to her, she was constantly glancing back at her screen.
Oh, yeah, that's a little bit off-putting.
It made her team feel like she wasn't fully present
Yeah.
or listening.
Right.
Right. So she just moved her desk so the monitor was out of sight
Okay.
and added more inviting meeting area.
Gotcha.
And it made a huge difference.
So sometimes it's not about willpower or grand gestures,
Right.
but about making subtle tweaks to the environment
Exactly.
to make the desired behavior easier.
Yes. And sometimes those design changes can have some really serious consequences,
Okay.
even life or death ones.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm listening.
Switch tells this story of a hospital struggling with medication errors.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, that's scary.
It's a big problem.
Yeah.
So the nurses knew the protocols.
Okay.
They wanted to follow them,
Right?
but they were constantly being interrupted,
Uh-huh.
which led to mistakes.
Oh, wow.
So the hospital tried something a little radical.
Okay.
They gave nurses bright orange vests to wear,
Bright orange vests.
bright orange
Oh,
vests
okay.
whenever they were administering medication.
Interesting. I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, and guess what? The nurses hated it.
They did.
Oh, yeah. They felt like they were being singled out.
Right.
But here's the thing.
Okay.
The error rate plummeted.
Wow.
Those vests, as much as they were disliked,
Yeah.
created a clear signal to everyone else.
Don't interrupt.
Yeah, important stuff happening here.
Right.
So even though the nurses felt a little silly,
Yeah.
that change in their environment helped them perform better
Wow.
and potentially even save lives.
That's amazing.
It is.
So shaping the path is crucial. But what about the mental side of change?
Right.
How do we get those habits to stick? What about that elephant we were talking about?
That's where understanding the magic of building habits
Okay.
and harnessing the power of what we call action triggers comes in.
Action triggers. Okay, I like
Yeah.
it. Tell me more.
So think about this story from the book. Mike Romano was a soldier who returned from Vietnam,
Uh-huh.
addicted to opium.
Wow. Okay.
Like many soldiers at that time, he had fallen into drug use while overseas.
Right.
It was part of the culture, easily accessible,
Right.
offered an escape from the stress of war.
Yeah.
But when he returned home to Milwaukee,
Okay.
something incredible happened.
What happened?
He quit.
Just like that. Cold turkey?
It wasn't that simple,
Okay.
but it was remarkably fast.
Oh.
He had a supportive family, he found engaging work,
Uh-huh.
and most importantly, he was removed from the environment that enabled his addiction.
Right. So his environment played a huge role in breaking the habit.
Exactly.
It's kind of like the opposite of those popcorn buckets, right?
It is.
The triggers were gone.
Our habits are deeply intertwined with our surroundings.
Right.
And changing the environment disrupts those ingrained patterns.
That makes a lot of sense. I've heard people say it's easier to break a bad habit while on vacation.
That's a perfect example. You're away from your usual triggers and cues,
Uh-huh.
making it easier to establish new routines.
But what about those of us who can't just pick up and move every
Oh.
time we want to change a habit?
Exactly.
How do we create those vacation moments in our daily lives?
That's where those action triggers become so powerful.
Okay.
They're like preloaded decisions
Okay.
that link a specific cue in your environment to a desired behavior.
Give me an example. I'm ready to start hacking my habits.
Okay.
Let's do it.
So let's say you want to start meditating regularly.
Okay.
You could set an action trigger.
Okay.
Right after I pour my morning coffee,
Okay.
I'll meditate for 5 minutes.
So the act of pouring the coffee becomes the cue to start meditating.
Exactly.
It's like automating your good intentions.
Yes. It removes the need for willpower in the moment.
Oh, I like that.
Right, because the decision's already been made.
Right.
And research shows that people who set these specific action triggers,
Uh-huh.
they're significantly more likely to achieve their goals. Yeah.
So it's not just about having a vague intention,
Right.
but about creating a concrete plan
Yeah,
that's linked to a specific cue.
exactly.
I like it.
And it's not just for personal goals.
Right.
Think about Natalie Elder,
Okay.
the principal who transformed a chaotic elementary school.
Oh, wow. Okay.
She used the power of routine
Okay.
and action triggers
Uh-huh.
to create a calm and productive learning environment for her students.
Okay. So schools can be tough to change. I'm eager to hear how she did it.
Yeah. So she inherited a school where mornings were pure chaos.
Oh, yeah.
Kids were arriving stressed. Transitions were a nightmare.
I can only imagine.
By the time they reached their classrooms, they were anything but ready to learn.
Right. Sounds like a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, it was not a good situation.
What did she do to turn things around?
So Elder and her staff decided to become valets for the students.
Valets.
Valets.
Okay.
They greeted each child at the curb,
Wow.
helped them out of their cars,
Talk about above and beyond.
and walked them into the cafeteria.
That's amazing.
It was a brilliant move.
It was.
Once inside,
Okay.
Elder implemented a structured morning assembly.
Yeah.
Announcements, character education lessons, the Pledge of Allegiance, even a patriotic song.
Oh, wow.
So by creating this consistent routine,
Yeah.
this series of action triggers,
Uh-huh.
she essentially reshaped those chaotic mornings
Yeah.
into something positive and productive.
And predictable, I bet.
Exactly.
The kids knew what to expect.
By the time the kids got to their desks, they were calm, focused, and in the right mindset for learning.
I love that story.
It's a great one.
It shows that change doesn't always have to be about these big dramatic overhauls.
Right.
Sometimes it's about those small, consistent actions that add up over time.
Absolutely.
I like it.
And speaking of consistency,
Yes.
this brings us to the next piece of the change puzzle.
Okay.
The power of social influence.
Ah, yes. The herd mentality.
We humans are such social creatures,
We are.
constantly looking to others for cues on how to behave.
It's true.
And the research shows that our behavior is incredibly contagious,
Yeah.
whether we realize it or not.
That's a little bit scary.
It is a little bit.
Think about something as simple as tipping.
Okay. Tipping.
Yeah. How does that tie into social influence?
Have you ever noticed that we readily tip baristas,
Yeah.
but we rarely tip the people who bag our groceries?
You know, now that you mention it, that is kind of strange.
Yeah.
They're both providing a service.
They are,
Yeah.
but the difference lies in the social cues.
Okay.
We see tip jars at coffee shops,
Mm-hmm.
and often those jars are already seeded with money,
Right.
suggesting that tipping is the expected norm.
Interesting.
So we're more likely to tip when we see that others are doing it.
Right.
It's like built-in social pressure.
Peer pressure.
Exactly.
So we're constantly taking cues from our social surroundings.
Yeah.
Especially in unfamiliar situations.
Especially.
So how can we harness this power of social influence to drive positive change?
That's the million-dollar question.
It is. Give me some examples of how this works in the real world.
Okay, so one great example is this Wharton professor
Okay.
who decided to tackle the notoriously slow peer review process for academic journals.
Oh, man, those peer reviews can take forever.
They can't.
I can only imagine the backlog.
It's a huge problem.
Yeah.
This professor, Gerard Cashon,
Okay.
he knew that simply asking people to speed up wasn't going to cut it.
Right.
He needed to change the game.
Okay.
So he set a strict 65-day deadline for reviews,
Wow.
which was significantly faster than the norm.
Okay.
And here's the genius part.
Okay.
He made the status of every review public.
Public. As in, like, everyone could see who was on track and who was lagging behind?
You got it.
Wow.
Every Friday, he'd post a spreadsheet online
Okay.
showing which reviewers had submitted their feedback
Oh, my gosh.
and which were holding things up.
Now, that's some serious social pressure.
It is.
Did it work?
Like a charm.
Really?
Nobody
Yeah.
wanted to be the bottleneck,
Right?
especially when they knew their colleagues were watching.
Yeah.
So he essentially used transparency
Uh-huh.
and a little bit of healthy competition
Right.
to create a new social norm.
Wow. That's brilliant. It makes you wonder what other social norms we could create
Right.
to nudge people towards better behavior.
That's what we should be thinking about.
It is.
And this principle isn't just limited to academia.
Right.
Think about that designated driver campaign back in the 1980s.
Oh, yeah. I remember that. It was everywhere.
That was the whole point.
Okay.
Harvard professor Jay Winston,
Okay.
he realized that to make the designated driver a social norm,
Uh-huh.
he needed to make it highly visible
Right.
and memorable.
Okay, so how did he do it? Did he launch a massive ad campaign?
He went straight to Hollywood.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
He partnered with writers and producers
Okay.
to weave the concept of the designated driver
Uh-huh.
into the plots of popular TV shows.
Oh, wow. So, like, characters on shows like Cheers and L.A. Law were suddenly talking about designated drivers.
Exactly.
That's so clever.
It was a subtle but powerful approach.
Yeah.
By repeatedly exposing people to the idea,
Uh-huh.
even in these fictional settings,
Right.
he normalized the behavior
Yeah.
and made it part of the cultural conversation.
Did it actually change people's behavior?
It did.
Wow.
Within a few years, the term designated driver became commonplace.
Yeah.
And people were actually making safer choices.
That's amazing.
And it even led to a significant decrease
Wow.
in drunk driving fatalities.
That's incredible.
It is.
Shifting the social environment can have a ripple effect on real-world behavior.
Yeah, it can.
And sometimes those shifts
Yeah.
can be sparked by something as simple as humor
Yeah.
and a well-crafted villain.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Tell me about this villain.
Okay, so this story takes us to Tanzania,
Okay.
where a campaign was launched to combat this issue of sugar daddies.
Sugar daddies.
Yeah, older men who prey on young girls,
Right.
often leading to unsafe sex and the spread of HIV.
Right. That's a tough issue to address, especially when it's so deeply ingrained in the culture.
It was a big challenge.
Yeah.
But the team behind this campaign, they knew that lecturing or shaming wouldn't work.
Right.
They needed a different approach.
So what did they do?
They created a villain.
Okay. A villain?
His name was Fataki.
Fataki. What does that mean?
It's a Swahili word
Okay.
that translates to explosion or fireworks.
Okay.
Something dangerous
Right.
and unpredictable.
I see where this is going.
You got it.
So Fataki became the embodiment of the creepy sugar daddy.
Exactly.
Okay.
They brought him to life through radio spots,
Okay.
banners, even tabloid headlines.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And they told these stories of his constant yet always unsuccessful
Right.
attempts to seduce young girls.
Oh, wow.
He became the ultimate loser,
Oh, that's good.
someone to be mocked and avoided.
I like it.
It was really clever.
That's a brilliant strategy by turning him into a figure of ridicule.
Yeah.
They challenged the social acceptance of that sugar daddy behavior.
Exactly.
Did it work?
It did.
Really?
People started calling out Fataki behavior.
Wow.
Even celebrities weren't safe.
That's great.
The campaign successfully shifted the social norm
Yeah.
and empowered people to intervene and protect young girls.
That's awesome humor. And a well-placed villain can be surprisingly effective tools for change.
They can be.
It seems like we've covered a lot of ground already.
Yeah, we have.
But we haven't even touched on the importance of reinforcement and celebrating progress.
Right. We haven't talked about that yet.
I know the book talks about this.
It does.
Can you tell me more?
Absolutely. We can actually learn a lot from animal trainers when it comes to reinforcing positive change.
Animal trainers?
Animal trainers.
Okay.
Have you ever wondered how they teach dolphins to jump through hoops
Yeah.
or monkeys to ride skateboards?
I mean, I have to admit I have.
It's pretty amazing.
It is.
So the key is that they don't expect the animal to perform the entire trick flawlessly
Right.
from day one.
Of course.
They use this technique called approximations,
Approximations. Okay.
where they reward every small step toward the goal.
So like giving the monkey a treat for just getting near the skateboard?
Exactly. And then another treat for touching it,
Right.
then for sitting on it, and so on.
Okay.
They gradually shape the behavior over time through positive reinforcement.
Interesting. So it's like building a house brick by brick.
Yeah.
You don't start with the roof.
That's a great analogy.
I like it.
And this approach works wonders in human relationships as well.
Okay.
Switch mentions this writer, Amy Sutherland,
Okay.
who used animal training techniques on her own husband.
Wait, she used animal training techniques on her husband.
She did.
I am dying to hear this story.
Good one.
What does she do?
So she was frustrated with some of her husband's habits,
Okay.
like leaving his clothes on the floor
Uh-huh. The
and being chronically late.
Okay.
So she decided to apply the approximations method,
Okay.
praising him for even the smallest positive actions.
So, like, instead of nagging him to pick up his socks,
Yeah.
she would say, "Oh, honey, you put one sock in the hamper. You're amazing."
Something like that.
Did it work?
Believe it or not, it worked.
Really?
He started picking up more socks,
Wow.
arriving on time more often,
The power of positive reinforcement.
and their relationship improved.
That's amazing. So, the takeaway here is to catch people doing things right
Yes,
and acknowledge it.
that's it.
It sounds like that could work for colleagues, kids,
Yeah.
spouses.
Absolutely. We're so often wired to focus on the negative, to point out problems,
Right.
that we miss those opportunities to reinforce the small wins
Mm-hmm.
that can lead to lasting change.
This reminds me of something we touched on earlier, the importance of creating those free spaces
Yeah.
where people who want to make change can connect and build momentum,
That's crucial,
especially when you're trying to shift the culture of an organization.
especially.
We talked about how those informal afternoon rounds were crucial for the doctors and nurses
Yeah.
who successfully implemented shorter work weeks
Right.
in that teaching hospital study.
Exactly. Those gatherings gave them a safe space
Yeah.
to share ideas,
Yeah.
voice their support,
Uh-huh.
and develop a shared language for talking about the benefits of the change.
Right. So it's like they were building their own little herd
Yes.
within the larger organization.
Exactly.
That sense of shared identity and purpose
Yes.
was critical for overcoming resistance from those who preferred the status quo.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it makes you think about all the different ways
Yeah.
we can create free spaces
Right.
in our own workplaces or
Yeah.
communities
Right.
to nurture positive change.
It doesn't have to be anything formal or complicated. Right?
doesn't.
It could be a regular coffee break
Yeah.
with colleagues who share your vision,
Absolutely.
or an online forum where people can connect, brainstorm ideas.
Yeah. It's all about creating that space
Yeah.
where people feel supported
And encourage.
and encouraged to push for positive change.
Love it.
And don't forget to celebrate those successes along the way.
Right. We can't forget that.
Remember how Dr. Pronovost,
Okay.
the doctor who created that life-saving checklist for ICUs,
Uh-huh.
he emphasized the importance of focusing on learning
Right.
rather than perfection.
It's about progress, not perfection.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He said the teams who succeeded were the ones who embraced the stumbles as part of the process.
Right. They saw early failures as valuable feedback,
Yeah.
a chance to refine their approach and get closer to their goal.
Exactly. It's all about learning and iterating.
It reminds me of that story about the IBM executive
Oh, yeah.
who made a $10 million mistake.
Yeah. What happened?
And the CEO, Tom Watson, refused to fire him.
He didn't?
He said, I just spent $10 million educating you.
That's great.
I love that story.
It's a good one.
It's a great reminder that we all make mistakes.
Yeah, we do.
And it's those mistakes that often teach us the most valuable lessons.
They often do.
And sometimes the most unexpected solutions are the ones that make the biggest impact.
That's true.
Remember Molly Howard,
Molly Howard.
principal who transformed a failing high school
Okay, yeah.
by changing the grading system.
What did she do?
Remind me, what did she
So
do?
she abolished the traditional grades of A, B, C, D, and F.
Right.
And replaced them with A, B, C, and NY for not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
So if a student wasn't meeting the standard,
Yeah.
they didn't receive a failing grade.
Right.
It's a gentle nudge to keep trying.
Exactly. It shifted the mindset
Wow.
from one of fixed ability
Right.
to one of growth and potential.
It also removed the temptation to just give up once a student received a bad grade.
Exactly.
That's so powerful.
It is.
A seemingly small change
Right.
can have a ripple effect
Yeah.
throughout an entire culture.
It's all about reframing failure
It is.
as a temporary setback.
Yep.
Not a defining characteristic.
That's great.
It's a powerful shift.
So it sounds like what we're really talking about here is this interplay
Yeah.
between our rational minds,
Uh-huh.
our emotional drives,
Yeah.
and the environment that shapes our choices.
Absolutely. And recognizing that change is a process, not an event.
Yes.
It takes time,
Persistence.
persistence, and a lot of encouragement along the way.
And this raises a really important question for our listener.
What's that?
What change do you want to see happen in your life?
Yeah. What are you hoping to achieve?
What are those things that you've been thinking about
Yeah.
that you want to change?
Maybe you've even tried to change and haven't been successful.
Yeah, what are those things?
What are those things? And how can we apply these principles
Right.
to make them a reality?
That's what we're going to be talking about
That's what we're going to be talking about next.
when we come back.
Stay tuned. So once you've identified that goal,
Right.
how can you apply these principles
Yeah.
to make it a reality?
It's not enough to just dream about change.
Right.
We got to take action.
We got to do something.
We do.
So think about it this way.
Okay.
What's holding you back right now? Is it a lack of clear direction?
Okay.
Maybe your rider needs a better roadmap.
Okay.
Or maybe it's a shortage of motivation.
Okay.
Maybe that elephant needs a little more encouragement to get moving,
A little kick in the butt.
a little kick in the butt.
Yeah.
It could also be that your environment is working against you.
Yeah.
Maybe your path is full of obstacles
Right.
that make it hard to stick to your goals.
So once you've identified those roadblocks,
Yeah,
you can start applying some of these tools that we've been talking about.
exactly.
Right.
Find your bright spots.
Yeah.
Those small victories that show you you're on the right track.
Yeah. Love those bright spots.
Those are important.
Script the critical moves.
Yeah.
Those key actions that'll move you closer to your goal.
Tweak your environment to make those positive choices
Yeah.
easier, more appealing.
Build those habits,
Yes.
those automatic behaviors that will help you stay on track
Yeah.
even when your willpower is running low.
That's key
It is.
because we all have limited willpower.
We do.
So if we can automate some of those good behaviors,
Right.
it frees up our willpower for other things.
I like it.
And rally your herd.
Yeah.
Find those people who will support you
Cheer you on.
and cheer you on along the way.
We all need that.
We all need our cheerleaders.
We do.
Don't be afraid to experiment and try new things.
Right.
And most importantly, celebrate those small wins.
Yes. Celebrate all the wins.
All the wins, no matter how small,
They're important.
keep us motivated.
They do.
What's really fascinating about all this
Yeah.
is that while change can be super challenging,
Uh-huh.
it's also incredibly empowering.
It is. Once you figure it out and you
Yeah.
and you start having those successes, it really
It's motivating.
it builds momentum.
It does.
Knowing that we have the power
To shape our own destinies, to
Huh?
make a difference in our lives
and the world around us.
and the world around us.
That's what makes it all worthwhile.
That's the good stuff.
It is.
And for those times when the going gets tough,
Yeah.
and that elephant
Uh-huh.
starts to get a little stubborn,
Right.
just remember,
Okay. I'm listening.
there's always more mango to be had.
There's always more mango. I love that.
It's from the book.
It's a great metaphor.
That's a good one.
Those small rewards, those moments of celebration,
Yeah.
they can make a world of difference.
They really can.
They really help to keep that motivation going
They do.
and help us stay focused on the bigger picture.
Exactly. And they remind us that change doesn't have to be all drudgery and self-denial.
Right.
It can be fun.
It can be, and it should be.
Exactly. We should enjoy the process.
Yeah.
So to wrap things up,
Okay.
remember what we've talked about today?
Yes.
The rider, the elephant, and the path
Our three friends.
are three friends.
And how we can use them to make lasting change.
Yes.
Shape your path.
Uh-huh.
Motivate your elephant.
Direct your rider.
Direct your rider.
And celebrate those wins along the way.
This deep dive has given me so much to think about.
Me too.
It's really inspiring to know that change isn't some mysterious force.
Right.
But something we can actually understand and influence.
We have more control than we think.
We do.
So what change do you want to see in your life?
That's the question.
What are you going to do about
What
it?
are you going to do about it?
That's the next question.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about understanding those dynamics at play.
Right.
The interplay between our rational minds and our emotional drives
Mm-hmm.
and the environment that shapes our choices.
Yeah. And recognizing that change is a process.
Yes.
Not an event.
Yeah, the process.
It takes time,
Uh-huh.
persistence.
And a lot of encouragement along the way.
Yeah, and I think that's something that people forget.
Yeah.
They want that instant gratification, and they get discouraged when they don't see results right away.
Yeah. Or when they hit a setback.
Yeah,
Which is inevitable.
it is.
We all hit setbacks.
We're going to stumble.
We're going to stumble.
Yeah, and it's about how we get back up
Exactly.
and keep moving forward.
That's what matters.
It is.
And that's where having those clear goals,
Mhm.
those action triggers,
Yeah.
that supportive environment,
We've heard.
that herd, all of that comes into play.
It does. It really helps us navigate those rough patches.
It really does.
This deep dive has given me so much to think about.
Me too.
It's really inspiring to know that change isn't some mysterious force out there.
Right.
It's something that we can actually understand
Uh-huh.
and influence.
We have more agency than we think.
We do. And I think that's a really important message
It is.
to take away from this.
It is.
So for all of you listening out there,
Yeah.
what change do you want to see in your life?
What are you going to do about it?
What are you going to do about it?
That's the challenge. It is.
We're throwing down the gauntlet.
We are.
What are you going to switch?
I love it. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope this episode has given you some valuable insights
Yeah,
and some practical strategies for creating lasting change in your own lives.
absolutely.
Remember, change is a journey, not a destination.
That's right.
So be patient with yourselves,
Uh-huh.
celebrate those small wins,
Yeah.
and never give up on your goals.
Never give up.
Until next time, keep exploring
Keep learning.
and keep switching.